What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the 1912 Exiles podcast. No game this week after our cancelled, rained off game against top of the league MK Dons this week, but we do have a bit of news. So, first of all, Dan Butler will be suspended for our FA Cup clash against Leicester. This is after he has collected 2 yellow cards so far in the competition. Which is a big loss to us because we know how important he can be to us. He's played really well this season, and it's a shame for him not to be able to contribute on that sort of big occasion that we're going to have. I do think this rule is slightly unfair on the smaller teams that have to play through rounds 1 and 2, because by the time we get to the Premier League teams being introduced, the chances are that players will have already picked up cards. I've seen someone suggest that they have a card amnesty at the end of the second round, and this would probably even the playing field a bit. So the Premier League teams are going to be able to come in without any suspensions, whereas the teams introduced earlier into the competition are likely to have suspensions. Obviously, having only played one round, Championship teams won't have any players suspended either. It does really weight the games in favour of the big teams, which already have an advantage by being bigger teams with bigger budgets. So the second piece of news is that Mike Flynn continues to be linked with jobs elsewhere, the main one being the current vacant Bristol Rovers job. Again, it'd be a shame to see him take that one. We'd probably consider them a rival. I think we definitely consider them a rival, so it'd be a shame to lose a manager who's been successful for us, as well as a manager who's a local bloke over the border to Bristol Rovers. The other thing is I'm not sure how stable a club it is at the moment. Their long-term manager blew up in his last press conference. There's been a lot of talk about the state of the lack of progress on their training facility, and possibly in the amount of investment in the squad as well. So there's speculation that the money isn't there, that the owners aren't contributing what they said they would. So I think it'd probably be a difficult one for Flynn to take, leaving a stable job at Newport. He's not under any pressure, and he's got a good team doing well. I just think it would be a strange one for him to leave to a rival in a uncertain position, and it could very well be that Bristol Rovers and Newport end up swapping places come next season. If we manage to get promoted, Bristol Rovers are currently looking like they're going to get relegated. So he would ultimately gain nothing by making that move. I think career-wise for him, staying here and achieving playoffs or promotion will enable him to get offers from teams in the upper reaches of League One to see if they can push for a promotion there. I don't think he'll leave for an unstable job where he's not going to be able to put his mark on things. And also, I think he wants to try and see this project that he started at the county through to some sort of conclusion. So, with the FA Cup windfall coming in and an estimated £315,000 available through the windfall of making it through to the third round and having a televised game against Leicester, speculation has been rife about where the money could be spent. So the manager's already come out in the press and said that he's identified at least 2 targets that he'd like to bring in the January window. So that seems quite likely if he can get the deal right. We've had Charlie Cooper go back to Forest Green, so again freeing up some more wages. And fair play to Charlie, he's come in and he's always put effort in whenever he's played. It's maybe technically not quite where we need him to be. And like the manager said, with a lot of players coming back to fitness and Josh Labadie re-signing, it's just he's not going to get the minutes that he probably needs at this stage in his career. So fair play, we've done right by the player, I think, and also it suits the club as well. So it gives Charlie Cooper the opportunity now to go out in January and find himself a club where he can play regular football. So, as well as bringing new players in, there's also been talk of retaining the nucleus of the team, players like Joe Day, Dan Butler, Padraig Hammond and Mickey Demetriou. So I think that's a positive move as well. I spoke last week saying that I think we should probably be looking at offering new deals to these players. But also the perennial question is being floated around about creating our own base. It's been spoken about by Mike Flynn before. I know it's something the fans have asked for. And be that a stadium of our own or a training ground, it's something that the club would like to establish, I think. But I think due to the complexities of ownership of the current stadium and existing grounds in the city, with council involvement as well in terms of what we could do with Spitty or whether we could build a stadium of our own, I just don't think we could afford it at the moment. It's probably out of our price range. However, a training facility could possibly be within our reach. Something I've come across this week is crowdfunding for football clubs. It's something that Stevenage used to fund their new stand that they've redeveloped, and possibly we could use it to fund the money towards a training facility. This has generally been done through a company called Tifosi, which is founded by former Chelsea boss Gianluca Vialli and his business partner Fausto Zeneton. And they worked with Norwich recently to raise 5 million for their new training facility. And like I said, they work with Stevenage as well as a whole load of other clubs they've worked with. How they did this was through the release of what they call mini bonds. So it's a 5-year investment bond open to the public, and the minimum amount to invest is £500 with no upper limit. They did take smaller donations, but those went directly to the club rather than being used to purchase a bond. Offer that Stevenage gave on the returns of these investment bonds was they gave either 4% cash return or 8% cash in club credit. So that would be redeemable in the club shop or as tickets or on match day food in Stevenage's case. I accept that we don't have control over the food and beverages at Rodney Parade ground at the moment. That's controlled by WRU and the Dragons. So we probably wouldn't offer it there. And then your initial investment will be returned after 5 years. So the risk to the investors is that these bonds are unsecured. So if the club's unable to repay the loans, there's a chance that you'd lose your money after the 5 years. But as an example, a £500 investment in this case would return £20 cash or £40 club credit each year. So that's essentially 2 home games that you could attend for free, or a new shirt that you essentially get as part of your investment each year. So if we raised a similar amount to Stevenage of 600,000, and we used some of the money from the new trust membership scheme and a portion of the FA Cup money that we've accrued over the last 2 years, we could easily be looking at around 800k, maybe more. And also, like Mansfield have done, we could apply, and Stevenage did actually for their new stand. Mansfield did it for their training ground. You can apply for a Premier League and FA Facility Fund grant, which is up to £500,000. To be eligible for this, you have to have security of tenure at where you want to build your facility. So that either has to be a 25-year leasehold or having the land as freehold. So with the 500,000 from the grant and the money we raise, we could be sat on anywhere would be over 1 million, wouldn't we? Hopefully looking around the 1.5 million mark. And that may be enough to get the facility constructed. Mansfield paid 2 million for theirs, and their owners put in the 1.5 million shortfall after the grant that they received from the FA. But that's not without risks as well. So obviously, to have the freehold or the leasehold, we'd have to buy the land first because we don't own any at the moment. And then we can find ourselves in the same spot Bristol Rovers are in, where they purchased their land almost 2 years ago, and they've yet to build anything on it. It's just a field full of weeds at the moment. So again, that's a risk. If we didn't get the FA grant, we could have bought this land and then it'll just be sat there. But this crowdfunding scheme has worked, as I said. Exeter used it in the past, not through this company, but they used a donation scheme with specific targets to relay the pitch, to repair the floodlights, and also Tifosi have worked with the likes of Norwich, Portsmouth, Fulham, Parma in Italy, Bradford, Shrewsbury, and Pescara in Italy raised £2.5 million doing this. Pescara and Norwich both went a step further as well, and offering a one-off 25% bonus payout if they were promoted up into the top division. Obviously, I don't think that's something that Newport would be able to offer, because the returns of being promoted into League One just wouldn't justify the payout that it would cost, whereas promotion to the Premier League for Norwich would obviously cover that expense and more of paying out that bonus. Pescara even went another step further and offered a range of tiers based on how much you invested. You could get things like access to open training sessions or being invited to the opening of their training facility. The top level package even included an all-inclusive away trip where you travel with the team the day before, stay the night in the team hotel, and then have your match ticket and travel, your hotel all included, and you basically get to travel as part of the team for an away match. This isn't without risk, both to investors and the club. Obviously, if the club can't pay back their debts, then they could land themselves in serious trouble, as we all know very well. So they may prefer just to go down a donation route where the fans don't actually get their money back at the end of the 5 years. They may just wish to sort of open a donation scheme with these rewards, like Pescara did, or maybe they'll offer a one-off return as club credit, possibly. But crowdfunding may be a way for us to raise additional capital on top of what we're getting from supporters trust membership, and it's just another potential revenue stream into the club. But again, I can understand why fans would be reluctant to take this up when they're already paying into the club, a lot of them as supporters trust members, and then to keep asking them for more and more money could be frowned upon. But ultimately, as a fan-owned club, the limits of what we can achieve is determined by how much investment we can raise, and part of that investment will always come from fans, as long as we are partially fan-owned. I know we're looking to move towards this blended ownership model, but if we can't attract investors from outside, it does once again fall to the fans to raise the money to allow the team to blossom on the pitch. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. I may have rambled a bit and not sort of made sense, but if you want more, Tifo Football on YouTube have done a very good animated video on how this worked for Norwich. I think if we were to do it, we'd probably focus more on the Stevenage model, because they're a team at the same level as us. So I think looking at how they did it may give an insight into how the county would be able to do something similar. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. If you've enjoyed this week's podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're on Buzzsprout, the Amber Army YouTube channel, and iTunes. Thanks very much for listening once again. Up the county.